I don't throw darts at a board. I bet on sure things. Read Sun Tzu, The Art of War. Every battle is won before it's ever fought. Think about it.
Welcome to Kyle Anthony's UFC Betting Show. I am Kyle Anthony, and welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the prediction show for UFC on ESPN Plus 34. Alistair Overeem versus Augusto Sakai. We've got two free plays that we're going to talk about on this card. Coming off another profitable night last weekend, went 2-1 on client plays, did hit on our top play of the night, which was Impa Kasanganay, minus 130, 4% play. Cashed in, unanimous decision victory for us, consistently increasing clients' bankrolls. Right now, for the year, and I love to give these updates, always when we're increasing them, it does sound even better when we're consistently increasing these bankrolls. Right now, plus 54.16% return on investment for my clients from this year, 69% winner on my plays. So we consistently move forward, hit another one, and look to this next one here. If you're interested, I've got 3 client plays up on Wagertalk right now, linked in the description. 3 plays, 19 bucks. Take a look. Got a huge write-up on each one of them. Really excited about this card. Got to move forward, looking to consistently make more profit. But what we're going to do, we're going to first talk about is the main event of the evening for this Saturday is Alistair Overeem versus Augusto Sakai. Now, this is the one that the line has changed consistently here. We had Overeem, which was a sizable favorite, and money has come in on Sakai. And I'm going to get into this one here. I think this is a very interesting fight. Very interesting main event. We've got, one fighter kind of surging and the younger guy coming up. You've got the older guy in Overeem who has been pulling some victories out. Does his chin, how's his chin looking? What's kind of going on with this guy? So what we're going to do is what we always do, go over the last 3 fights for each fighter, see what we see if one fighter can expose the other one, and if it makes sense to place a wager. So we've got a current line right now. We've got Overeem is a minus 176, and we've got Augusto Sakai is a plus 142. So minus 176, plus 142. Again, that line has consistently come in money coming in on Sakai. So what we're going to do first is we're going to talk about Alistair Overeem. 3 fights ago, Overeem fought Alexei Oleinik. Now, this was a fight here where you're looking at another grappler versus striker matchup. And not much to break down in this one because really this was a fight where Oleinik kind of pushed forward right away. He pushed forward in that first round, looked to get that takedown, but what he did is he pulled guard. And that's something that, one, I'm not a big fan of to begin with, as any MMA fighter does that because obviously being on the ground with your back is a big disadvantage. But for a guy like Oleinik, where he's able to submit you in any angle, in any way, and he's done it before from his back, submitting multiple opponents, this was a spot here he did not want to stand and fight with Overeem, which is very understandable as well. Overeem, world champion kickboxer, multi-champion kickboxer. This is something he wanted to do. But Overeem fought pretty smart there, stayed confident, stayed comfortable, stayed relaxed, and was able to kind of scramble his way out of that. From there, Oleinik pushed forward a lot, and that was something that I think you do see certain spots with Overeem is where he's back up against the cage, or when he's kind of cornered, he kind of does this turtling up, puts his hands over his face, allows his opponent to kind of really engage as much as he wants. I'm not really sure if that's a smart move just in general, but he's able to, he's done it many, many times. And a lot of times it's kind of worked out for him. He kind of scrambles out, he kind of shuffles out or kind of runs away a little bit to look for space, look to kind of work his combinations from the outside. But in this spot here, the tie clinch was something that Overeem was really looking to kind of work, and he ended up working some nice knees up in the clinch as Oleinik was landing. Oleinik was really pushing forward a lot, landing some good shots. But from there, again, the knees were consistent, landed about 2 or 3, dropped Oleinik, got on top of Oleinik, and ended up getting the ground and pound in that first round. And Overeem goes out there and gets the TKO victory. 2 fights ago, Overeem fought Jardinho Rosenstruck, and this is one that I actually watched twice because I think there's a lot to take away from this fight. And you've got someone like Rosenstruck. Both of these guys are great kickboxers, top-level kickboxers. Obviously, Overeem has much more experience overall, but this was a fight here where from start to finish, you did see how Overeem works and how in space, how good he is. And Rosenstruck, I think he was gun shy in a couple spots there, didn't really fully engage early on in that fight, and as the fight consistently moved on, you even saw that Overeem knew, hey, I'm going to take this guy to the ground. I'm going to take him to the ground. I'm going to find opportunities where he's not going to be as strong, and I'm going to expose the vulnerability of his ground game. It's not like Overeem has this top level ground game, but he just know that if he could just kind of wear down Rosenstruck, that's going to be a path to victory for him. To at least when they go back to standing, he's going to have possibly more gas in the tank. And you did see that. And he did some level changing. There were some sloppy attempts that Overeem had, but throughout, he pretty much was outstriking him. I mean, there wasn't much that I saw that would really jump off the page that Rosenstruck did anything prior to the end of that fight. There really wasn't much that he really did. So as the fight consistently moved forward, really he kept control of the fight, even up against the cage, had Rosenstruck up against the cage. It wasn't this sexy, first 3-4 rounds of the fight, but as it got going there into that fifth, it was a cakewalk at this point for, the whole fight wasn't, but it was a cakewalk to the point of the extent was pretty much all he needed to do was kind of get through that fifth round. The fight would be over, Overeem gets it, and with very, very few seconds left, Rosenstruck lands the big bomb, drops him, ends the fight. And the fight in this situation here is, I think the big part of this is that Overeem still has a game. Overeem still has the ability. One you saw against Oleinik, knocking him out. And here even just standing and fighting over a long period of time. And over the full course of that fight, he was consistent. He kind of stayed on top, worked his striking. And I thought that was a great spot for him, the way that he looked against a guy who was a rising star, kind of a guy that a lot of hype was behind him. And yes, Overeem lost the fight, but it was just maybe a lapse in judgment or whatever it may be, or I mean, obviously it was a bomb because it split open Overeem's lip, but in the end, it ended up being Rosenstruck's victory, but in the performance side of it, 95% of it, you have to say that Overeem was taking that fight. Again, a loss is a loss, of course, but what happened in there, it was a really good showing for Overeem overall. But his chin, that could be another question. We'll get into that in a minute. And then most recently, he fought Walt Harris. Walt Harris was coming off obviously a horrible tragedy with his daughter, coming in there, and this was a fight here that, I think the public was backing him. They were just kind of hoping, not even on a betting side of things, just, give him a little bit of joy, and, not much to break down on this, but Walt Harris went out there guns blazing. He went out there looking for the big shot, had Overeem hurt. I actually thought they should have called it, even in the situation where just obviously what even happened to his daughter and that kind of thing. It's not like they want to just say, hey, let's give him the win. But Overeem was shelling up on the ground, and Walt Harris just looked to pour all of his energy into that. And after that, he had nothing. Once Overeem got back up, there was just nothing that Walt had left. Overeem gets that victory. Kind of hard to take something away from that fight in general, but you do give him the victory there, and Walt Harris loses, and that was a first-round win for Alistair Overeem. Now you go over to the other side, you go over to Sakai. 3 fights ago, Sakai fought Andrei Arlovski. Now, we all know what Arlovski is. He's was an ex-champion, but a journeyman heavyweight at this point. Not that he's had some wins, had some losses. And this fight here, I thought was interesting in the way that how it all transpired. Because you take a look at the way both of these guys fight, they stood toe-to-toe. They battled it out. Early on, they both were landing good shots. And I thought that what Sakai was, you would see how Sakai was really working his striking, and Arlovski's not really known to have, he's on the smaller side of the heavyweights, but he's not known to have that just blazing hand speed, and I thought he really showed fast hand speed compared to Sakai. Sakai's hand speed was definitely a lot slower developing combinations. His footwork wasn't as good. Arlovski was doing a lot of good things. I thought that, working the combinations back on the outside, working the quick combinations, I thought he fought a little bit smarter instead of that brawling, just let's stand and let's just throw big bombs. And throughout, and again, that's the big disadvantage, was the speed for Sakai. But Sakai walked down Arlovski a lot in this fight. But the part that I thought that was the odd part of this was that Sakai didn't actually throw a lot of volume. There was opportunities where he had Arlovski up against the cage or kind of walked him down and didn't really, wasn't really backing up that walking down with big shots. And that's where I think that's where you kind of take a look at what, again, the right path he was taking there, but Arlovski was capitalizing on some of the positions that Sakai should have actually landed some big shots there. And even the limited output was just, there wasn't much there for Sakai. Going into that third round, I actually thought that the fight was over. I thought that it was, taking a look at it, I thought it was easy 2 rounds for Arlovski going into that third. And then into that third, I thought that Sakai actually started increasing his output, hurt him a little bit, landed some nice shots. It went to a split decision. They gave it to Sakai, but to me in this spot, this was a fight that the UFC, and I believe the UFC does this, and I've talked to many of you guys, I know a lot of you guys believe this, that, obviously there's times where they want to take a certain fighter and they want to highlight the certain fighter, and of course it's a fight, anything can happen. But in this spot here, Arlovski was the kind of guy that this should have been a knockout, big shot for Sakai, a highlight reel brawl, that kind of thing. And it wasn't, I don't think he looked that impressive. Sakai did get the victory in the split decision, but again, I did not think it was the greatest performance against an aging fighter where Sakai should have had advantages in a lot of different areas. But Sakai goes out there and gets a split decision victory. 2 fights ago, he fought Marcin Tybura, and quick fight here. This was a good showing for him. Going into this fight, Sakai was saying, hey, I just want to walk him down. I'm going to walk him down. I'm going to look for the big shot. I'm going to land the big shots. I'm going to pressure him. I'm not going to, give him much room. And that's exactly what he did. He went out there in this fight, landed some big shots, pressured early, and it was a quick, quickly he engaged with him. Had his back up against the cage, landed some nice combinations, dropped Tybura. Tybura went down, the quick ground and pound, the fight was over. Good showing there. He did what he was supposed to do. Tybura is a struggling heavyweight, and this was a good showing for him. He landed the big shots. He wanted to engage. Against Arlovski, he allowed some space, allowed Arlovski to have some footwork, have some movement, use his hand speed a little bit. Here, he wanted to slow that down a little bit and wanted to get in tight and make it a dirtier fight, and it worked out for him in this spot. So he goes out there and gets the first round knockout against Tybura. Most recently, he fought Blagoy Ivanov. Now, I am not a fan of Blagoy Ivanov. Ivanov is a slow-moving, smaller heavyweight, flat-footed, very limited striking, doesn't really have many weapons when it comes to, his arsenal that he can call upon when he's in an exchange. Has a little, has ground game, some grappling accolades, and there are some good things that he has in there. But in this spot here, I thought this was another situation where really Sakai should have really stuck out in this fight. And early on, you saw how Ivanov looked good. I mean, Ivanov pushed forward overall. Early, he was limiting the space between them. He was outstriking him early, and Ivanov really, his gas tank's terrible also, and this showed again where he was firing shots early. There wasn't really much that Sakai was doing earlier in that fight. Again, it was the situation, this fight was early Ivanov, late Sakai. Even into that second round, I thought that, Sakai got out of some tough situations, some tough positioning, and the leg kicks was a really great opening for Sakai to start really working combinations up top. And that's what slowed down Ivanov. Ivanov already into that second, going into that third round, always slows down, and that really opened up the doors for Sakai to keep landing shots. This was a very close fight. I mean, even heading into that third round, very close fight. And Sakai goes out there and gets his victory, but the thing about it again is these are, 2 of his last 3 fights were split decision victories. And that really kind of sticks in my head. And again, it's against Ivanov, who I'm not that big on just as a skill set. Arlovski, another aging vet that really doesn't have much to give, is almost just getting a paycheck. And yes, he's pulled some wins out, but has lost a tremendous amount as of late. And he knocks out Tybura, who's a struggling heavyweight. So these are not the biggest wins or the biggest fighters that he's facing. He's won them, but again, behind them, it's a little bit of question marks there. So with that all being said, we take a look at Overeem. Obviously, Overeem is a multi-time world champion. The kickboxing side, he's other MMA organizations. He's been a champion. And you talk about the kickboxing that he has. He has power. He has the ability to be out there. Great combinations. Great in the clinch. Has good knees, good elbows. On the other side, you've got Sakai. Sakai's got the good boxing. He's actually started to utilize a little bit more of, boxing and then throwing a nice leg kick in there, mixing up his combinations a little bit. And also the big part is that Sakai is a big boy. And he moves very good for a heavyweight, a guy that I believe cuts down to make the limit. And he's a big guy. And the fact that he's able to move the way that he does, I think is impressive when you take a look at that part of it. But I think when you look at the downsides of both of these guys, obviously you've got Overeem, he's 40 years old, had wars, just got knocked out, came back, did get a victory over Walt Harris. How much does his chin have left? I mean, he's another guy that does he have a questionable chin? I'm not sure if I believe that overall. I mean, you look at some of the losses. I mean, you've got the big bomb that was landed by Francis Ngannou. You've got even the big bomb that was landed on him against Rosenstruck. These are big boys, and those were big shots. This was not a Luke Rockhold side of things where, hey, he just kind of clipped his chin and he goes down. These are big shots that he's taking. Also, the turtling up does worry me slightly. That when he's pressured, he can turtle up a little bit. But on the other side, you've got Sakai, and Sakai's limited output to me is very bad when you're taking a look at a guy in Overeem who's going to have a good output, who's going to be able to strike, who's going to mix up the combinations, who's going to be throwing a lot. And I think he's the kind of guy that Sakai is the kind of person that he can slow down also when he gets into the later rounds. So when you're looking at a toe-to-toe fight, I think this is a spot where Sakai's going to give space. Yes, he's going to look to walk him down a little bit. Yes, early on, I think Sakai is going to be landing some big shots, pushing forward. But I can't get around the three most recent fights. Early, when I first looked at this, I kind of was leaning Sakai. Obviously, the money has come in on him, and a lot of the value has been sucked out of this line. But the more that I looked into it, I actually like Overeem in this spot. And you take a look at, again, against Arlovsky, questionable win. I really thought he lost that fight. Even if he didn't, it was such a razor-thin fight that really should have been a great showing for him. And against Ivanov, who doesn't offer much offense, compared to Overeem, who's going to offer a lot of output, who's going to have a lot of different attacks, is going to really pour on the striking, who's been in this spot, in the big main event spot. So I like Overeem here. The price has come down. It has absolutely pulled me into this spot at a minus 176. I think it's a good price. I believe this is probably where the opening line should have been. But I still think that, again, you're getting good value on a vet. He is aging, but I like this spot here. I don't think Sakai offers enough. It's not that he's this big heavy hitter. It's not like he's this big guy that's knocking out all these fighters. Overeem has, an ability to kind of get around some of that. So I like Alistair Overeem as my first free play, minus 176 in the main event. The next one we're going to talk about, and this one I'm not going to get into all of the past fights. I'm kind of just going to give some quick stuff here a little bit, and just kind of give my pick on this second free play. So the second free play we're going to talk about is Thiago Moises versus Jalen Turner. And we've got Moises is a minus 200. We've got Turner a plus 168. So real quickly going over these guys, you've got Moises. He's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Top level grappler, really great grappling game overall. He's got some decent striking. His striking isn't really up to par. It's not where it is when you're talking about other fighters that have some ground game and some mix. He really is just a specific, this is a striker versus grappler matchup specifically. And the other side, you've got Turner. Turner's a big guy. I mean, he's a guy that, I don't even know how he fits into this division. He's a big boy overall. He cuts down to make this weight also. And I think the big thing about this is that he's not only does he mix up combinations really well. I like that he works the body. I like that he's not just out there headhunting like a lot of guys do, which is going to allow a grappler to end up literally looking for the shots if all they're doing is headhunting. He really level changes a lot on his striking. But the part here that is going to be is that he's got 7-inch reach advantage. And that is massive. And you've got a 5-inch height advantage. That is massive. And the part on Moises is that Moises doesn't really have the output. He's another guy that doesn't have the output to really kind of work through and get in tight. The line here, to me, I think is very high. I think this should be more on the pick'em side of things. And you've got Moises at a minus 200. I think that's very high overall. But also the ability is that, can Moises take Turner down. Now, you've seen him have some nice victories, you've seen him have some submission victories and been on the ground, but he doesn't really have the ability to take guys down. Maybe there's certain situations where they stumble to the ground or he finds a trip or that kind of thing, but he's not the kind of guy that's going to go out there, get your back, get in tight, get in the clinch, pull you down with some wrestling, and then work your grappling. That's not really what he's able to do. I think a guy like Turner can defend, and early on is going to be very dangerous for Moises. I think that Turner's going to look for the big shot early. I think that even if he could stand and just outpoint him, I think he could knock out Moises. He could also outpoint him for 3 rounds. And really the path of victory is really Moises just getting him to the ground and looking to submit him. And I don't think he's going to have that ability to do that. And even with the leg kicks, that's another thing that Moises likes to do. He likes to mix those leg kicks with the advantage that he's going to have with this 7-inch reach advantage. He's going to really have to cut distance to get in tight to actually throw that leg kick and be successful landing it. Where you've got a guy like Turner on their side who's going to have the big reach advantage and is going to keep him at bay. So I think it's a very, very tough situation for Moises to overcome. And at these odds right here, I don't like them. I think that Turner definitely at a plus 168 is a nice spot to place a value play here. I think it's absolutely worth it. Again, the reach is big. And I think that voiding out those leg kicks with the reach, as well as he's got the power and he's got good output, I like Turner here. I'm going to be taking Turner as my second free play. So there you have it. Those are my 2 free plays for UFC on ESPN Plus 34. Again, if you're interested, take a look on Wagertalk. 3 plays, $19. Take a look at it. Again, plus 54.16% return on investments for my clients. And that is it. Follow me at Kyle Anthony UFC on Twitter. And this is Kyle Anthony's UFC Betting Show. And I'll see you next time.